that we have a special program.
Public comment first, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. But before we begin, we will exercise the opportunity for public comment, and I believe we have 3 today. The first will be, and the timing is 2 minutes. 2 minutes. We will give you a warning and then we will cut you off. So Alex, you are first up. Hello, Bo, are you with us? Okay, well, we will come back and.
Yes, I'm here.
We're here. All right, go.
I'm here. Good morning to you. My issue is the traffic lights, particularly around the Boston area. I'm visually impaired, therefore I use a white cane. And when you cross over any of the streets, yes, you hear the chirping, the beeping. And for those that can see properly, you can see the little white person or the red person. For me, particularly, I don't see those. And I would think it would be beneficial for myself and many others if it said, continue walking across Glebe Road. Maybe not all those words. May cross Glebe Road. May cross Wilson Boulevard. Because in error, you could cross in the height of traffic, not knowing. So just some sort of adjustment with the traffic lights, particularly in congested areas of the county. But for example, as I said, the Boston Commons would really help those that are visually impaired. Thank you.
We will, thank you very much for your comment. Jim Richardson, who is chair of our Transportation Committee, is making note of that. And we appreciate your comment. If you have anything to submit in writing and want to do so, you can send it in to staff.
Thank you.
The next person is Jackie Pasquina.
Jackie's not here right now, so we can skip over her. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
And then next.
and the last one is Yo-Yo Chang.
Good morning, my name is Yo-Yo. I own my business called Recycled Teenager Senior Services. I go to rehab center, memory care, assisted living facilities to conduct sing-along, oldies but goodies. I encourage seniors to sing. They can dance in their wheelchairs. They can do upper body movements or be a little bit silly. I make them feel young at heart again, like a recycled teenager. They need this kind of stimulation because music does magic. I want to show you a video. I used to do individuals, but not anymore. Okay, she's 95 with Alzheimer's in wheelchair. She's rock and roll. How do you like that? 95.
Wonderful, thank you. We all need a little of that. Very cute, thank you.
One more, last one.
That's my generation.
Why not?
Can we get your contact information?
Sure. Why not? Life is good. Even you are in the wheelchair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yo-Yo. Appreciate that bit of good cheer. That's it. All right. So public comments. Thank you again for taking the time to come and speak to the.
Rebecca, is Becky with you now?
Yep, Jackie's here.
Okay, all right.
All right, Jackie, go.
2 minutes, right?
2 minutes.
I'm sorry, I'm a little late. Yeah.
early for me. One of the things that we have been discussing at great length, and I'm approached quite frequently by people who live here, and they're quite disturbed about the situation with the loop. We still don't have full clarification on that. And it turns out that the news of the loop closing went through this building like five-alarm fire. And anybody who hadn't heard it one way or another got it from their neighbors and friends. And I found that overall, people were absolutely more concerned about their family, friends, anybody who used the loop. They were concerned for other people because it's such a vital link. And I was thinking about it. I think the number is like 150 people out of 280 are signed up for the loop. Now, to my way of thinking, that's a pretty high statistic, and it hits over 50%. So this is not just some casual thing that people do to fill in time. This is the way that they get things done. And I've had somebody say, just getting to the library to pick out your own books and to go to the grocery store and pick out the items that they're used to, the brands, the size of the portion that you get. You know, they used to make a recipe and you need a certain size or a certain type of something. And you
Okay,
can't.
you have 10 seconds left.
Okay, it's a big concern and it's not without merit, and people are very disturbed. And I hope you decide to continue it because it's extremely important.
Thank you so much for your comment. And I believe we had a little bit of trouble hearing, but I believe it's regarding your concern for the senior loop. And we do have some information for you. So if you will listen to this announcement, I think it would be very helpful to you.
Yeah, so I just want to assure you all, first of all, that the senior loop is not going away. In fact, we have just heard that the contract has been extended through May of 2024. So for at least another year, while we figure out how we're going to redo that service. So be assured you're still going to get senior loop until May of 2024, okay?
And then if we're looking at options to continue as well. So we appreciate the feedback.
Thank you. We know that this is very important, and I'm really thrilled that the staff has been able to work this through in a time of difficult budget decision-making. So thank you again, Jackie, for your comment. That is the end of our public comment, so I can officially welcome and turn over to Herschel to introduce our speaker and fellow commissioner.
Okay, Delegate Alfonso Lopez has, before being in the legislature, served as a political appointee in the Kane administration and a cabinet level position in the Kane administration, a political appointee in the Obama administration. He's in his sixth term in the legislature. He represents one of the most diverse jurisdictions in the state in terms of language and ethnic diversity. And he's a member of the Democratic leadership and therefore in a good position to observe what went on. And with that, Alfonso.
Yeah, I saw stuff up close and personal. Well, thank you guys for having me and the opportunity to tell you about some of the major things that were going on in terms of aging and the things the commission cares about during this session. I will tell you, repeat something that Rip Sullivan says a great deal, who's the delegate from North Arlington. This was all about defense this year in terms of social safety net issues of human services, aging, healthcare, housing. So we were having to play defense. because, with the 52 to 48 seat majority in the House, the Republicans were acting as if they had a 75-25 majority, and they were putting in legislation that was basically gutting everything we've done over the last, 3 years of Democratic majority, and then 25 years of just the evolution of state policy and regulatory policy. And so, thank goodness we had a very narrow but solid brick wall in the Senate to defeat a lot of these bills that got out of the House in a party line vote that would have crumbled that social safety. And so what has come out of this General Assembly? Thankfully, not a lot. And by that, I mean, well, a lot of good things happened. I'm very proud of a few of my pieces of legislation, but I will tell you that a lot of the big ticket items in terms of rolling back abortion rights, rolling back renewable energy, progress we've made, rolling back environmental protections, rolling back education funding, rolling back healthcare funding, were all defeated by the Senate, even though they might have gotten out of the House. And there were exactly 99 pieces of sensible gun violence prevention legislation or legislation to get rid of sensible gun violence protections like red flag laws or high capacity gun magazine legislation. And they were all defeated by the other chamber, except one bill that I had and I'm very proud of. I worked with 3.5 months with the National Rifle Association, as well as to get the NRA, Giffords, Everytown, Moms of Man Action, and Brady to agree on something. And it was a big joke amongst a bunch of my friends that Alfonso Lopez is now getting positive press from the NRA because I worked with them and got them to yes on a bill that flipped the scripts on gun violence prevention. And it's a very it's an important piece of legislation, but it's nowhere near what we need to do. But it would basically create an incentive for good behavior, so people can be law-abiding in terms of gun safes and purchasing gun safes and gun locks, or gun safes and gun storage devices up to $300. And the idea is that we want to incentivize people keeping their guns protected and kept away from children or folks who are depressed or having to be stolen, which is happening on an increasing way across the Commonwealth. And if my argument was that if one child was kept from hurting themselves or someone else, or some depressed teenager was kept from committing suicide, then it was all worth it. So that was something that it took a lot of work to get to yes on it, but that was one positive thing I think that came out of this session. We don't have a budget. We don't have a budget. And that's because the governor has insisted, I've said this publicly, as a part of his presidential campaign, that he needs to say he cut taxes. Well, in the last budget, we did a great deal for economic development and fixing or right-sizing some things in terms of business incentives. But we are one of the top 3 business-friendly states in America. We were the most business-friendly state just 3 years ago. And then under Kane, we were for 2 years in a row. And under Northam, we were for 2 years in a row. And then his argument, though, is that we're a swamp. We're this horrible place in terms of business, which is all, I don't mean to be partisan, but untrue. And so what he's demanding is $1 billion of tax cuts for business on top of all the $4 billion that we took care of in the last budget. And we think the social safety net should be funded. Instead, we think that education should be funded. We think that there should be protections for schools and for healthcare and getting people up the DV and ID waiver list, as opposed to tax incentives to corporations that don't need them because they want to come to Virginia. In fact, he famously in the beginning of this year turned away a multi-billion-dollar Ford plant in Southwest Virginia. Even though we were one of the 2 finalists, because Ford Motor Company is a Chinese front company. And what's up is down, what's black is white, the night is day. He said that we weren't gonna go after Ford Motor Company and 2,500 jobs in a desperately, in a region of Virginia that desperately needs it because it was all a Chinese front. So what I love, folks, are people who want to govern Virginia.
Yeah.
I love it when we have a governor who cares about getting the weeds on Virginia, not someone who's going out of their way to put a finger to the wind and pull test policy so that they can develop a foreign policy agenda. And, think about, well, I need to cut taxes here, do this here so that I can look good to become the vice president of the United States. Because we all know he's polling in the zeros right now. I don't mean to be so partisan, but it is very discouraging when we see that even in a place like Arlington, when you have amazing staff and like hundreds of people who are senior staffers in Arlington County could be city managers and county managers someplace else. That's how lucky we are. And then when we still have issues and gaps and we don't have enough funding for certain things in Arlington, which is one of the most wealthy communities and most highly educated communities in the entire nation, what does that mean for Galax or Grundy or Danville? Places that are really hurting in Virginia. So I'm very angry about choices that are made sometimes by folks who I don't believe actually are truly focused entirely on the Commonwealth and making sure that everyone in the Commonwealth is moving forward. So with that being said, I have a couple pages of notes here on the 3 major issues that took up the most amount of time in terms of senior issues. One was nursing home staffing standards that finally were put into the code after 2 decades of trying. It was SB 1339 from Senator Barker, and the effective date of, and Delegate Bobby Orrock. It's a bipartisan bill. Its effective date is July 1st, 2025, and basically says that facilities must provide at least 3.08 hours of case mixed adjusted total nurse staffing hours per resident per day. It's short of the 4.1 hours of care per patient per day advocates were asking for. But and a home that is out of compliance for 2 years in a row could be fined $50,000. But Virginia was one of only 12 states without a standard at all. And that had been going on for, honestly, going on two decades. So this was a step in the right direction. Was it exactly what we wanted? No, but it was a step in the right direction. We also had a series of guardianship reforms that included visitation requirements, periodic review hearings, and prohibiting restriction of visitation with friends and family members. So Danica Rome from Prince William had HB 2383, which guaranteed visitation with friends and family, and provides that a guardian shall not restrict an incapacitated person's ability to communicate with, visit, or interact with other persons with whom the incapacitated person has an established relationship unless such restriction is reasonable to prevent physical, mental, or emotional harm to or financial exploitation of such incapacitated person. It also requires that the guardian provide written notice to any restricted person stating 1, the nature and terms of the restriction, 2, the reasons why the guardian believes the restriction is necessary, and 3, how the restricted person may challenge such restriction in court. And the current law only says the guardians are directed to not unreasonably restrict any such communication, visitation, or action with not specific requirements. And so this is, I think, a important step forward because how many times have we seen folks not being able to communicate with their domestic partners or with some family member because of ancient animosities that are between individuals that are not the incapacitated person. Danica Rome also had HB 2028, which required visits by guardians. Requires guardians or an approved alternative to visit an incapacitated person at least 3 times per year and at least once every 120 days. Which I find fascinating how that works. The guardian themselves have to conduct at least 2 of the visits and at least 1 of such visits be in person. The other visit can be by a family member, qualified professional, by the guardian virtually. And the virtual aspect is something that's new for the state code, which is what I thought was innovative by Danica. Senator Mason from Williamsburg had SB 987, which was regular guardianship review hearing. It requires the court to set up a schedule for periodic review hearings in the order of appointment of a guardian or conservator, unless the court makes the determination that such hearings are unnecessary or impractical. 1, the likelihood that the respondent's condition will improve or the respondent will regain capacity. 2, whether concerns or questions were raised about the stability of the person appointed as a guardian or conservator at the time of the initial appointment. And 3, whether the appointment of a guardian or conservator or the appointment of specifically appointed guardian or conservator was contested by the respondent or another party. So that's what needs to be determined by the court. And then the last issue was a bill that did not get done. Despite the fact it took a great deal of time and debate, which was from Senator Chap Peterson from Fairfax, a prescription drug affordability board. They would have established the Prescription Drug Affordability Board for the purposes of protecting the citizens of the Commonwealth and other stakeholders within the healthcare system from the high costs of prescription drug products. The governor would have appointed the board members. The bill would have created a stakeholder council for the purpose of assisting the board in making decisions related to drug cost affordability. The board would have been tasked with identifying prescription, generic, or other drugs as defined in the bill that are offered for sale in the Commonwealth and the board's discretion, conducting an affordability review of any prescription drug product. So what this would have done is would have taken us the first step towards us getting to a situation where we can use our authority to start demanding that costs go down in Virginia and take it to court. Sort of taking a Canada approach and incentivizing it in Virginia. Because as we all know, some of the worst things that can happen is making a choice between, do I pay the rent? Do I buy food this week? Or do I pay for my medicine that I need to stay alive? And to say that this is a unholy choice is an understatement. To say that we are still having to deal with this is unfortunate. And we've made progress over the last few years in terms of inhalers, in terms of insulin, but the whack-a-mole approach that we keep seeing is not right. We need to be able to, address these issues in a macro sense, not one medicine or prescription at a time. It passed in the Senate on a bipartisan vote of 26-13, but then it failed in a early morning subcommittee of the Commerce and Energy Committee that I serve on a 4-2 party line vote. And so this is another example of what I talked about in the very beginning, which is you'd have 45 bills to address sensible gun violence prevention that would pass the Senate, and then at 7 a.m. on a random Tuesday, they would all be defeated with almost no debate. And by the same token, you'd have all these bills to roll back sensible gun violence prevention, for example, that would pass the House, but then would die or be defeated in the Senate. And that's just an example of how this divided legislature has really not seen as much as could have been get passed this year. And that's why the reconvene session we had just last week was pretty short in terms of the number of governor's vetoes and the number of real amendments that took place. So beyond that, I wanted to say something that I've been working on for a number of years, and that you have been supportive of and very helpful on because of the sort of the way it's all interconnected. My legislation created the Virginia Affordable Housing Trust Fund in 2013. And we have gotten it from $6 million in 2013 to, in the last budget of the governor, 125.7 million in the budget. Now, this pales in comparison to other similar sized states in terms of what they have, their affordable housing trust funds. And I put in a budget amendment this year requesting $200 million in each year of the biennial budget to get us up to where we need to be. So $400 million. And what the governor has in his budget, or what the Senate and the House have in their budget, and what the governor put in his budget was $150 million. So is that what I wanted? No. Is it more than 125.7 million? Yes. The fact is this, that for every project we fund that addresses homelessness, and more importantly, is the seed money, before we go, the lights are gone. They didn't pay, we need more money for people. What it does is it creates the gap funding for the building of new affordable housing units around the Commonwealth. And there have been several built just here in the 49th district. I mean, you can do it within walking distance in certain places here. 149 person units, 127 person units. The issue is this, for every project we fund at the state level, there are 7 in Northern Virginia that don't get funded. For every project we fund in Southwest and Southside Virginia, there are 3 that don't get funded, that need to get funded. And because here's my point, folks. Or if you're living in a double wide trailer with a leaky roof and mold on the walls, and you've got kids living there, that's not affordable housing. And that is what exists in Virginia right now in dozens of communities. Dozens. We're a commonwealth. Tim Kaine says that means we're all in it together. Right? That means that if you have people living in hollers in Appalachia, down in Lee County, and they don't have schools, and they don't have social safety net, and they don't have affordable housing, it should matter to people who live in Alexandria and Arlington. And by same token, so it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be a member of this commission. I appreciate, so many friends on this commission who have put in years of service to the county, including you, Madam Chair. And so I can answer any questions you might have. I do go on. I apologize. I used to be the whip, and so if you get me going, I won't stop. But yeah, happy to answer any questions.
I had a quick question. Oh, sorry. I had a quick question. Do majority of other states have that drug board that you mentioned, Elliot?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have to get back to you on that. But I do know that I will say in a macro, hey, the lights are back. In the macro sense, you will find that Virginia is a rather conservative state in terms of what other folks will do in a year, we will take 6 to do.
Yeah.
And that's partly a function of our sort of Jeffersonian way of doing the state government, in that we are only in session 2 months out of the year. We're arguably amongst the shortest General Assembly sessions in the entire country. What's fascinating about that, though, is that we are the template for everyone else. So every issue will be adjudicated and taken care of literally in those 2 months that every other state will take 6 months to do. And then the national groups will then sort of say, all right, well, if we have this kind of legislation go out of this, and this is who this person is, and this is who this person is, this is the likelihood of this passing in this state and that state. So it's always fascinating to get in the weeds and go 4 or 5 layers down to see what these rules we had from the 18 teams mean today in 2023. So
So Elena, did you want to add something too about prescription drug affordability boards?
Oh, sorry, Alana, yes, so Maryland does have a prescription drug affordability board. In my previous role with Delegate Sickles, we worked a little bit on, this, topic, and basically, like, the pharmaceutical companies argue that the Maryland board was not set up effectively, and so therefore, they're able to defeat the legislation year over year. Anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Alana Crennan. I'm Arlington County's legislative liaison. Great to see you, Delegate Alfonso Lopez. I'm sorry I need to be virtual today, but please do continue, Delegate Lopez.
Sorry, yeah. Alana's great.
Other
Delegate
questions?
Lopez is great.
Cheryl?
I just have a sort of a general question. Any prophesying as to what might happen in November this year in terms of the election, and might the House return to the Democrats? Any thoughts?
I am, despite I am a glasses half full kind of guy, all right? Just based on the new redistricting maps, you would say that, if you were a pro-Democrat person, that it's around 54-46. In reality, it might be closer to 52-48. But a lot of those races are in terms of the district, Democratic performance indexes that are algorithms we have internally, they are very close. They're like, within 3 or 4 points. And so it's going to take a great deal of organizing and money, and a lot of it's going to depend on what the national zeitgeist is at the time. And the problem there is also that the governor got more money to shake a stick at. It's perfectly willing to spend as much of it to, send hundreds of thousands of dollars into campaigns where they need it. And so the fundraising is not gonna be an issue on the Republican side, it's gonna be an issue on the Democratic side. We're going to have to work incredibly hard over the next several months to see if we can take the House back and keep the Senate.
Keep the Senate.
Right,
And the governor will still be there.
and the governor will still be there for another 2 years. But I will tell you that what I find fascinating, and once again, it's a nakedly partisan statement, even though the Republicans redistricted the state in such a way where in my first year in the House, after redistricting, there were 16 new members. And there were 15 Republicans and I was the only Democrat. All right, that's how effective they were in upending things. And there were only 32 Democrats in the House. We couldn't even sustain a governor's veto if we wanted to. We took the majority, 55-45, using their maps. Over 10 years, we took the majority. Now, how do you make God laugh? Assume everything's gonna stay the same, all right? Everything changes, everything evolves. But right now, I think if you just look at the map, the Democrats are in a good place to take that 52-51 seat majority. But it's gonna take a heck of a lot of work to get there. Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, sure.
Any other questions? Well, I have to ask a housing question.
Sure.
Everybody knows what it's going to be. Could the housing trust fund ever be used to build affordable assisted living?
Yes,
It can.
it could be amended to do that.
Okay.
You could be definitely amended to do that. I thought, there had been talk about doing that in the past.
Thank you.
Because right now, it's basically to be that gap funding, but also to provide that homelessness, assistance grants.
Great, right. Okay, thank you. We'll be back to you on that one because that's kind of near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, I understand.
Other questions? Well, I want to thank you for, yes, I'm sorry.
Both a question and a comment. I commend you on the work that you're doing around gun reform and the incentives for safe gun storage and other efforts. Keep in mind that older men have one of the highest rates of suicide by firearms. You talked about youth, which is very, very important. We'll
Right.
continue to see that, but older men across the nation have one of the highest rates. So when you do your advocacy, please mention,
Right.
older people too, because they tend to have access and they're not safely.
Right.
You have the data on that, right, that you could share?
Yeah, I'd be happy to share.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Data.
The numbers are really stark.
Yes.
And the reason I bring up, the CDC actually came out with data. And they found that between 2011 and 2020, the highest rate of death for children in Virginia was gun violence.
Yeah.
Not,
Not
not
cars.
cars.
Yeah.
Not
It's across the
cancer.
country. Yeah.
It was gun violence. And, but also what's fascinating is the number of suicides.
Mhm.
If someone is having suicidal thoughts or is incredibly depressed and, for a short period of time, and they have a gun in their house, it's much easier for them to commit suicide. It's not, it's like nearly, it's over. The number 60 keeps coming in, but 60 a day suicides. And it's like, it's, how is that? To do it with a gun is much easier than any other process.
Yeah. And then a question about staffing standards for nursing homes and enforcement. How is that? Was there funding for increased oversight and enforcement of those standards?
I would have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, just
I
curious.
thought there might have been, with Barker as the co-chair of the Finance Committee in the Senate, which is the Finance Appropriations Committee. And I would assume that, and I don't know if he has the budget amendment for that, but I would assume that is in the budget. And if I can get back to you on that. But like I said in the very beginning, we don't have a budget yet. And we might not get one. You don't technically need one this
So
year.
it's level.
It'd be level funding. Now, is that a problem for a lot of our other issues? Things we want to get done? Yes. It's the increased affordable housing money I have in the budget for, cutting the cost of AP and IB tests for Reader's Lunch kids. I mean, a whole host of things that would not be funded the way we would maybe want it.
Anything else? Okay. Well, Alfonso, thank you so much for being here and
My
thank you
pleasure.
for what you do in Richmond. Has been an uphill battle. And we really appreciate it and we know the effort that you and the whole delegation is putting in. So thank you so very much for taking the time to come and speak with us and to do what you do
Thank
on
you.
behalf of our community.
And I will say that we're lucky in that our delegation is really sought after. And, Patrick Hope is one of our top 2 people when it comes to public health and healthcare issues, and a real leader on that. Rip Sullivan is one of the brightest attorneys in the state. EVP Elizabeth Bennett Parker is arguably, I think, the best freshman I've ever seen in terms of effectiveness and getting stuff accomplished. And then Barbara Vivola has forgotten more about public policy than most people ever learn. And Adam Evan, who has a few precincts now in the new redistricting, is a true moral leader in the Senate. And when he gets up and speaks, people stop what they're doing, they listen. So, we have a very good delegation. The new district lines, it's going to just be myself and Patrick and whoever is gonna be the new person for the 2nd district in Arlington. And then Barbara will have the vast majority of Arlington, and Adam Evan will have, if nothing changes,
Right.
At least 4 or 5 precincts in South Arlington. So we lose, unfortunately, EVP and Rip Sullivan.
They'll go on.
Yes, I would assume that they'll both win their elections. They'll just be Fairfax and Alexander, so. All right. So I apologize, I have to go to my next meeting. But I do appreciate Linda keeping me abreast of everything going on and Herschel and everyone else. So thank you all. Thank you for working so caring enough to do this. And so on behalf of literally the thousands of people who maybe don't know who you are, but benefit from your work and your decision-making, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent.
See you guys.
Okay, Thank you so much. We're now going to hear from Alana via a remote access, who will talk to us about the Arlington County and the liaison role that she performs in Richmond on our behalf and what some of the high points are. Alana, welcome and thank you so much for being with us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me join virtually today. My name is Alana Crennan, and I am the legislative liaison for Arlington County. I work very closely with our delegation members, including Delegate Lopez, who just spoke with you. I also facilitate our county legislative package every year where we put the top priorities for Arlington County related to how we live, work, eat, breathe, play, in Arlington. We cover all topics such as healthcare, we cover environment, we cover housing, we cover, um, public safety, etc. in that package. And Herschel was always so kind. He always shares the NVAN legislative priorities with me so that I can incorporate them into our package. And so all of this process usually takes place between August and December of the year that we're going into ahead of the legislative session. So I know we're only in April right now, but as we, get closer to August and NVAN starts developing their priorities, Herschel always makes sure, with all of your help, that I'm aware of what they are so that I can incorporate them into our package. And then I can present it to our county board for approval in November and then adoption in December. This year, I took a look at the NVN priorities and wanted to give you a little bit of an update on what was sent, what we included in our package, and what was passed and what wasn't. So the first, I know the big one for everyone is the virtual meetings. Unfortunately, that bill died. Both Senator Dave Morrison from Fairfax and Delegate Elizabeth Bennett Parker, who's an Arlington member of our delegation, introduced those bills in the House and Senate respectively. And unfortunately, the House killed both the bills. It made it through the Senate, but it did not make it through the House. And what that bill would have done is made it so that at least 50% of meetings could be done virtually without, but still having that in-person quorum. So my take for the coming year is that will remain in our package as a priority, that we have all virtual meetings as an option. However, I don't expect anything to change on that front until we have a change in the political party in power. So if during this November election, if you see both Democrats take the House back in control and the Senate retains their control, I would be pretty certain that we will see some kind of virtual meeting bill come back, as well as the likelihood of it passing is very high. Obviously, we would then have to get it past the governor, but we would definitely likely get one step further in the process than we were able to this year. Does anyone have any questions about virtual meetings? I know that's very, very important to many of you.
It's very painful sometimes, but we seem to be rising above.
Yes. Yes, you're doing a great job today with this hybrid meeting. Yeah, of course. I'm sorry, I don't know who's speaking.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a quick question. What is the possible opposition to virtual meetings?
So I think one of the Republican senators said it best. She, when the bill was being heard, they talked about the difficulties that they had in when we did virtual session back in 2021. And it really came down to a combination of broadband accessibility, which many rural areas, people that don't have, live in areas that don't have as great an infrastructure that we have in Arlington, they felt like there were connection issues. They also, they felt like they were mistreated. They felt like, they would raise their hand in a virtual meeting room and then wouldn't be able to, have their voice heard in the same way that they could in a, public setting. Those are the two of the opposition arguments that we are hearing. I don't know, how, uh, foolproof they are, you could say, but it's enough that the Republicans are, they stick together and they will vote to kill a bill. And we've seen it, we saw it last session.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then there's one other thing as well. Some of the Senate Democrats, the year before in 2022, had issue with the idea of like a state level body being able to meet virtually. And so this year they really tried to hone the bill into just, commissions like the Aging Commission, those, local advisory bodies. But some of the members there still really feel like everyone needs to be in person and that if you sign up to serve on a, advisory body, you should be able to be there. Now we can argue, how that maybe doesn't always work for everyone for a variety of reasons, but as of right now, it's there's still people out there that have differing reasons for opposition. Okay. Any other questions? Awesome. Okay, so then the other big piece of the package had to do with the tenant landlord rights. So in NVN's package, they talked a lot about um, the ability for an increase of 5 to 14 days after the mandatory waiting period when a landlord serves a tenant notice of writing for non-payment of rent. So to basically increase that the amount of time that a tenant and a landlord had before the eviction process starts. And so although that bill wasn't necessarily uh, passed in that exact form. We did have three other tenant landlord bills that did successfully pass. So I just wanted to quickly share those. So we have the kind of a version of a rent increase. So HB 1702, which I believe was carried by Delegate Michelle Maldonado, basically says that if you are a landlord and you own more than 4 rental units, then you must give your tenants at least a 60-day notice that their rent is going to be increased. So although it's not what you'd ask for, it's, we're still trying to make a little bit of moves in this direction. Another one, we also, HB 2441 did extend eviction notices for month-to-month tenants. So it required any owner of a multifamily premise that fails to renew the either 20 or more month-to-month tenancies or 50% of the month-to-month tenancies within a consecutive 30-day period, they have to give a 60-day notice allowing residents to know that their tenancy is going to expire. But it does exempt a landlord from the 60-day notice if a tenant has failed to pay rent. So again, still not getting at the goal that we're trying to get at. And then finally, HB 1635 gives a refund for what's now defined as an uninhabitable dwelling that provides a tenant may terminate the rental agreement and receive a full refund of all deposits if it is found to be an uninhabitable dwelling, which means that they define that phrase as a unit that constitutes a fire hazard, a serious threat to life, health, or safety of occupants and tenants on the premises. So those are the 3 tenant landlord bills that did pass. Like I said, again, not what necessarily was in the NVN package that I know you all wanted, but I did at least want to give you that update.
Thank you. Thank you, Alana. Any questions for Alana? Well, Alana, what does your outlook look like compared to Delegate Lopez's?
I'm with Delegate Lopez. I am very optimistic that hopefully, we'll flip the House and, retain the Senate. Obviously, we'll still have the governor for another 2 years since he serves a 4-year term. But we will just have to wait and see. So if you're active in campaigns or you want to get involved in campaigns, you can reach out to any of our delegates and senators in Arlington. I know they always love to have support, whether it be door knocking or writing postcards or, how helping to pass out signs, etc. Even phone banking sometimes. So I think it's gonna be a exciting year. We have exciting primaries coming up in June. Don't forget to vote. And I think, we'll see what happens. And, if you want to get involved in our package development, I know Herschel would love to have, lots of support. He's really wonderful to work with. And so, I love getting to work with all of you in terms of making sure that your priorities do end up in our legislative package every year. And so, thank you so much for having me.
Great. Thank you so much. Any other final questions for Alana before we move on? We'll look forward to meeting you in person one day. Thank you for joining us virtually. We really appreciate the update.
Awesome.
Keep
Thank
up
you.
the
Take
good
care,
work.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay, the next order of business is to approve the February and March minutes. They were sent to you in advance. Can I have a vote on the February minutes first?
So.
So moved.
Second.
Second, any comments, additions, or corrections to the February minutes? If not, can I have a vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? February minutes are approved as written. March minutes. Can I have a vote on that? Or a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Seconded. Any comments, additions, or corrections to the March minutes? If not, can I have a vote? All those who approve of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, and I apologize, I didn't ask for any abstentions in either case. Are there any abstentions? Okay, the March minutes are approved as written. Thank you so very much for taking the time for not only put those together, but also to give us the chance to review them and vote on them. All right, the next item is my report. Very quickly, there were a couple items that we discussed among the executive committee last week. First of all, we have been invited, and Kate's here waiting for our answer. VHC Health has invited us to serve as a focus group in their community health assessment. In checking with the dates, the one that we feel that we can best do is March 22nd May 22nd, beg your pardon, from 2 to 4 p.m. And this will be virtual. It's about a 2-hour session, and we will be able to provide input with the special opportunity on behalf of the Commission on Aging and our various committees and viewpoints, particularly focusing on health-related issues. Is that comfortable with everybody on the program? All right, so Kate, we are with you on that date. Yes, Cheryl.
Thank you, Linda. So to that point, that's usually the time that the PIO committee is. So, Kate, we were also wondering if people who ordinarily attend the PIO committee could participate at the same time, and we kind of overlap and have the PIO committee at that time be the same time, especially given the nature of the kinds of people who do attend the PIO committee, and since you're a member of that as well, what do you think?
You're muted.
Yeah, thank you. Got it. Yes, Cheryl, we had talked about including folks that serve on committees that are part of the Commission on Aging during this focus group. I know Wendy was one of those individuals that requested that. So that sounds fine to me. I haven't been to your committee meeting in a little while, so I'm not sure if it's anybody beyond the folks that are committee members, but we don't have an issue with that as long as it's okay with the executive board. This is kind of the opportunity for this commission to give voice.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then if you have any additional information as the time gets a little closer, I'll send out a notice to everybody who's on the PIO committee or who's on the list, just to kind of give them an update and what the link will be and this kind of thing.
Sure, sure. Yep, that comes from the consulting group that's doing it. So as soon as I get those details, I'll be sure to probably get them to Linda and then we'll get them disseminated.
Perfect. Thank you. That's great.
Wendy,
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm, and I appreciate Kate's comment because she knows I'm interested, that this speaks to part of the conversation is also hoping to provide input on how VHC's community development funds are appropriated. So I think it's really important for commission and commission members to be part of this focus group. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I'll go back to what Adrian said when he introduced us to the group. This is more like the big picture issues about what we all see are facing, healthcare issues, equity issues facing seniors in the community. It is not so much like, what do you think of the VHC, ER, or what do you think of the VHC? It's not going to be VHC specific questions. It is this big picture for you to provide some input about the community and how, as an entity, we can all work together. What should be the goals? What should be the focus as we move forward? So just to be clear, it's not looking at departments across VHC and offering input in that. It's just not set up that way for this particular federal
thank
survey.
you. Can I ask you, will you send out an invitation to the commission or to us and we'll distribute it? Because that little bit of information, I think is extremely important so that our focus is appropriate for what your needs are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And again, I'm going to go back and get those details about there's going to be a login link, for everyone. And so we'll get that out. And again, that's coming from the consulting group, but we'll include a little blurb to, again, remind you about what this is really looking at.
He has a question.
Yeah, a question. What does VHC consider its community? In other words, what is the service area that it wants to assess the needs of?
It's quite broad, and we can go over that as part of the setup. But it's, obviously all of Arlington County and surrounding communities as well. And it's, Fairfax, we've got entities, Fairfax, even into Loudoun, across the board. But I would say, of course, our focus is really Arlington specific, but we reach beyond that. So, but it's really looking at, again, this is your community perspective. It's not a VHC. It's just as a entity, given our tax status, we're required to do this every 3 years, I believe. It's either 2 or 3. I could be wrong. So bring to the table what you see as a community member, where you're sitting, and what you think are the issues.
All right, thank you, Kate, and we'll look forward to that information. And again, just to be clear, you'll disseminate it to us and we'll get it out to the group. And if there is right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Linda, just to confirm, you said May 22nd, 2 to 4, correct?
Correct, May 22nd.
Okay, very good.
Okay, thank you. The only other item I believe I need to report today is that we are moving forward with putting together a forum for the Democratic candidates who are running for the Arlington County Board. And here are some of the details that we have worked out so far. We are still working on many other details, but I think we're moving ahead. First of all, we are looking at a date of, I think it was May 18th from 2 to 3:30. It will be a physical meeting. It will be at Culpeper Garden, which has agreed to be a co-sponsor, as well as the Arlington Neighborhood Village, which has agreed to be a co-sponsor. What that means and why that is important is we will actually be in a location that's not only a polling site, but has older adults can come and ask questions, although it should be open to the public. Secondly, because we have no capacity of providing information on what our written questions were, there would be no way to get out the responses should we receive them. Anthony Nunez has agreed to collect questions And Cheryl has agreed to be our MC since she did such a great job at the community engagement forum. And Carlos has agreed to be the timekeeper because from my limited experience in watching some of the candidates, they aren't as sensitive to time as perhaps they could be. So this is still kind of a moving target, but in listening to one of the first forums group was assembled for, there was nothing that had to do with any issue related to older adults. And so I think it's important that we make sure that we share what we think our questions are. We will reach out to commissioners. Again, we want to leave some time. We don't want to make questions too complicated. So Anthony has a big job of kind of culling things. But Anthony, we'll figure out a way to get questions directly to you, and if you can prepare them. In the meantime, we're still working on the logistics. The letter of invitation will go out from Wendy, Marta Hill Gray, and myself to the various folks running. Are there any questions?
Did you mention a date and time?
Yes, we are looking at May 18th from 2 to 3:30 at Culpeper Garden.
Okay. And you said Democratic candidates only?
So what most often happens in Arlington, Virginia, is that you have a big hassle of people running for the Democratic position. And this will be a ranked vote. So you can vote for as many as you want in a ranked order. And there will be 2 individuals who are then on the ballot in November. There may also be independent candidates. I believe Audrey Clement has announced that she's running. And there'll be Republican candidates. So we could come back and decide if we want to do this again, if it works for us. But this gives us a chance to give it a try. Any comments?
Hey, Linda, this is Anthony. I already got questions from Herschel this morning, so I'm already beginning the process. So everybody, as they send me their questions, I'll start the process.
And Audrey has sent you one also. And I think what we're going to do is try to be, from my one listening opportunity will need to be as general as possible, because frankly, these folks don't really know any of the significant details that we work on. So Audrey has sent a question to you, I believe, as well. It relates to housing.
I included Audrey's in.
Oh, excellent. Terrific. Okay. So this is an opportunity for the other areas in age friendly to provide a question or 2 and send them to Anthony.
I sent it to you.
Okay.
That was.
All right. Thank you.
And my suggestion was actually to send at least the topics to the candidates.
Yes. Okay. I think that's a great idea.
And I even perhaps with a note saying there will be no questions that have the term missing middle.
Yes. That was the only question that was asked, and it was quite painful at the Civic Federation meeting to re-legislate and re-legislate and re-legislate. So yes, and perhaps I'll tell you what, perhaps we can include that in the invitation. How long do you all need to submit a question to Anthony? And Anthony, how fast would you be able to? We could send it with a confirmation email. So
I tried to cover all the topics.
Oh, you
all the
did already.
Subject areas I could think of.
Okay.
But I'm not an expert in any of them. So
well, I think you have lots of experience. So that's fantastic. Let's say if you have any questions for Anthony, today is the 17th. If we gave you until the 21st, the end of this week, to send a question, if you have them, to Anthony. And if you need more time, you can just let him know. I need another day or so. And then Anthony, if you'll compile them, and let's say about May 1st, you provide us with your list. Is that fair? And then we'll just, I think what Herschel's, I'm sorry.
Yes, he says yes.
And then, okay, great. And then by then, we'll see what happens. I hope we'll get a positive response. It doesn't hurt to ask, so, so the 21st, if you have any questions, due to Anthony. And then, the first, Anthony, if you'll share your questions, with me, that would be great.
So,
yeah.
So Herschel, you said you covered questions that apply to all of the areas, like communications too? I mean, oh, good. I mean, I just didn't want to duplicate an effort.
Right, and I think, maybe we can share on the first with all the chairs of the committees.
Right.
So that you feel that you're.
I just sent it.
All right.
Linda, could I say
Wonderful.
something?
Sure.
I would say don't worry about duplicating others' questions. I think if I get a lot of the same questions, I think those will be ones that kind of go up the priority list. So don't worry about having to communicate with other commissioners what questions they submitted. Just submit what you want, and if it correlates or lines up with what others have sent, that'll just bump it more to the top. So that's the only note I'd add.
I think that's fine, although some of the committees probably have vetted their questions, so they're submitting just one. But we'll work that out. I don't think that's a problem.
I thought that, Cheryl would actually want to be able to change things on the fly.
Yeah. She's got
depending
that
on what's
flexibility.
happening.
Right. And some very particular questions, I'm certain, I don't know if Marta is able to carry back the information on the loop, but that is the kind of question that the Culpeper folks would ask as well. They're very concerned about that because they appreciate that service so much. Anyway, we are moving along. We'll see what happens. We'll hope that they don't say no thank you to us. And if they do, we'll certainly report that to you as well. That ends my report unless there are any questions.
I was just gonna follow up on one discussion item we had at the executive committee, and that was whether or not the senior ambassador program presentation could occur in July. And thanks to Wendy Zanker and Michelle McMahon, they have both agreed that they will be presenters at our July meeting.
Okay, great. So,
and I'm very excited.
And another note, thank you so much for that. We agreed that housing would be the topic for the June meeting, which will be June 26th. The July 17th meeting will be a presentation on where we are with the Senior Ambassador Program. So again, that is a fulfillment of one of our goals, which is to get the age-friendly committees and their activities out there, so we can hear about them and also talk about what the challenges are. So that's delightful. And Audrey, thank you for being our Housing and Supportive Services Chair. Really appreciate that very much and stepping forward. Anything else I missed? Okay, we are now going to move on to staff reports.
All right, thanks, Linda. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see all of you, those of you here in person as well as online. I want to start today, first of all, by expressing my thanks for everyone's help in making the Community Engagement Forum a huge success this year. We had probably record participation, whether it was in person, people participating via Zoom, or at our 2 satellite sites, one at Culpeper Garden and also the other at Hunters Park. And so just want to thank everybody who was involved in the planning, those of you that attended as well. And so we'll look forward to seeing what we can do even better next year. I do have some positive news to report on the Agency on Aging budget for next year. We met with DARS on the 31st of March, where we were provided an updated view of what the 2024 budget is going to look like. I'm just really happy to say that it looks like we will actually have an increase in funds instead of the 8% decrease that we have been anticipating. And so a couple factors that have played into the change since December. First of all, they used updated ACS data So when they did the projections back in December, it was the 2014 to 2018 ACS data. They have now run it against the 2015 to 2019 ACS data, which is what they would be using when they do that final allocation. And so that tipped a little bit in our favor, the demographic shift every year. There's also changes to the definitions of what a medically underserved area is. And Arlington, believe it or not, is now classified as a medically underserved area. Okay, so we're going to get a little bit of additional funds in health promotion, in the health promotion bucket, because of that. And then there is also an increase in Older Americans Act funding, primarily in the home delivered meals bucket. And so, which is good news because our home delivered meals program is one of probably our biggest expenses. And so grateful to see that, that there's some additional funding there. The numbers, the way they calculated it, does not factor in yet the $700,000 that is in the budget amendment that is still in play that Alfonso spoke about. If by some chance that does pass, that would also be then potentially an extra $4,600 in our state funds. And so would tip that bucket to be a positive as well. So things are looking a little bit brighter on the budget fund, and that's making me happy. We talked a little bit about the changes to the senior farmers market program. It's very exciting this year. We're not only increasing the income eligibility, but we'll also have more coupons to distribute this year. So there'll be information coming out about that very soon. The program is slated to start June 1st. Our Aging and Disability Resource Center is continuing to see large numbers of requests for financial assistance, but we're also starting to see a significant increase in the request for food assistance. And so things like referrals to the Arlington Food Assistance Center, the food bank, and also to Meals on Wheels. And we believe that this is in part due to the end of the SNAP emergency allocations. Those ended in February. The last allotment was sent in March. And so people have now returned to the pre-pandemic levels of SNAP allocations. And it is causing a lot of stress and anxiety on the food budgets. And then my final update is DARS has now released the draft state plan on aging for the period of October 1st, 2023 to September 30th, 2027. So the next their four-year plan, we'll be developing this summer, our four-year plan that aligns with that, but also with the needs of Arlington. So this draft plan is available for public comment. I sent out the link to the site where it is available in the read ahead materials. Yeah, I'm sure it is. So there is a virtual hearing scheduled for tomorrow. That's April 18th. And then you can also provide written or online comment to it. There are instructions on that link that I sent. And all public comment is due by May the 5th. So I would encourage you to take a look at it. I think the first part of it is 35 pages, but then with all the appendices in there, it's pushing several hundred pages. So if you have time, do take a look at it. If you want to make public comment, I would encourage you to do so. Any questions for me?
Yeah, I do have a question. It is when I opened it and I started to read it, it's many pages. And so I would ask if there is anything in particular you want us to focus on as a commission in anticipation of perhaps writing a comment or providing public comment. Anything that you feel that we have, that you know about, that we have been focusing on, that, so that we can kind of.
So I haven't opened it yet.
Okay. All right. If you could let us know as the committees meet, if you think there is relevance in making a comment that the commission submits, let us know. I think, I don't know how many years ago it was, I went and I think I communicated asking for an increase in what's it called, the waiver, right?
You did, yes, and I think we had someone speak about transportation, Erica spoke as well, but we can, yes, we can certainly get some.
So there are some subjects like that that are broader, but they also, you know, and looking at your age friendly, you're trying to get a little bit of traction for an issue and they haven't gotten there. Perhaps at least this is a time to call that to attention among stars as they go forward.
All right, Anthony, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. I have two questions. Helen, I guess the first one was what really went into getting Arlington classified as a medically underserved area? I was curious if you could elaborate on that for us.
I don't have the specifics, but it is based off of demographic information, but I don't know the specifics of how they've changed the definition. I have that request out to our state agency, and as soon as I have that, I will let you know.
That would be great. I think that's a very good question and something that would help to tailor.
Yep.
Last question. You mentioned now that, so we initially thought we were going to have a decrease, and I think in the last meeting or the previous one, we were discussing that, you know, home care hours that the AAA offers for older adults was going to be cut. Hours were going to be reduced. Is that not, so that seems like it's now kind of the flip side. So are hours not going to be cut anymore? Are service days not going to be cut for, you know, those that rely on home care that's covered by the AAA?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so the funding will be part of the, a lot of this will come with the federal funding. So the state fiscal year is tied to the county fiscal year, which starts July 1st. And then the funding that we'll get, the federal funding, we have access to that on October 1st. We have had to make reductions to the community living program just because of the increasing cost of the service, as well as the increasing demand. So we made some reductions that went into effect April 1st, but we are planning to evaluate everyone's starting in June. Something else tied to the public health unwinding is we had more flexibilities of what was considered homebound. We are losing those protections. So some individuals who qualify for community living, which is in-home assistance, help with meal preparation, grocery shopping, like housekeeping. We're going to reevaluate everyone who's connected to the program. That's over 450 individuals. But we've also had some one-time funding through the state that came through the Agency on Aging, that we brought in a temporary certified nurse's aide who is doing some check-in services. So we're trying to have as minimal impact on the people that we serve, while recognizing that we're glad there's pretty much a maintaining of the funding, but it's still not enough. And so we will definitely look at advocating for increases for the funding for in-home services.
So I guess funding will still be, hours will still be reduced for those older adults, or it will not?
So all of the individuals who are currently connected to the program, we have had to make some reductions for some individuals.
Okay. And those 450, is that the total of individuals that are going to see the reductions, or is that the total group? I didn't catch that.
No, 450 individuals are served by the program on an annual basis. We went through our nursing case manager, who also manages the community living program, Fiona Elad, went through each and every person, all 450, those who may benefit from a higher level of service like Medicaid waiver, they were referred to that service. Some were connected to other programs. Some individuals were connected to the temporary staff person for a check-in service, but some individuals were reduced in their number of hours.
Okay. Is there anything we can do to, you know, as commissioners to kind of help, you know, on that? You know, obviously, if there's an increase in funding, I guess the assumption would be that there's not going to be a reduction, but there's still a reduction in hours. What can we do as commissioners, you know, to help there? I just feel like they're, you know, and I'm also still concerned with May 11th, you know, and a lot of the Medicaid recipients that are going to be rolled off of Medicaid. if, we're reducing hours for the 450 that we currently serve, and there's additional individuals that may need to be served from that roll off, what's going to happen there to those individuals. So that's kind of the angle I'm asking for.
No, I think one is advocacy. We're providing you the information, and it's not all 450. It's individuals who we evaluated that we could safely make a reduction in hours or increase their services through an alternative program. But it's through the DARS, the release of the state plan. It's advocacy through things like the legislative committee, the budget, and Chair Gallagher did a great job and mentioned this during the DHS work session. But it is a combination of not just local funding. We also need state and federal funding that we're currently utilizing to be able to meet the growing demand for this service.
Okay, I'll connect with Herschel offline related to that, because that's relevant for the N-band agenda. Although that seems like it's a ways out, I'm not really sure that that's going to happen in a timely manner. But thanks, Rachel.
Well, it is an ongoing and a growing need, so I think the advocacy should also be ongoing and continue. Thank you. Wendy?
Yeah, just a quick comment, and back to the state plan. We're a little late, we villages are a little late to the party. But I just wanted to give folks a heads up that we do plan, there's a group of Virginia villages that is going to try to sort of upgrade our advocacy efforts to look to explore, more villages in all of Virginia. This is not about an Arlington County issue, but rather a recognition, much as the conversation we're having right now, money's tight, the demand is only going to be growing. How do we meet that demand? And we think that volunteer provided services can help offset the pressure that's placed on budgets across Virginia. So we are going to be making comments that the state plan over the next 5 years should recognize and try to help Virginia communities grow the village movement, so we can have more volunteers trying to help older adults as they age in place. And I'm not asking for the commission to make those comments. I'm only alerting commission members to the fact that we will be going forward with those comments. I welcome anyone individually to join us, but it's just a heads up.
Wendy, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for making that comment and building a partnership throughout the state. I think that's really important, the value of volunteerism. Any other comments at this point? Okay.
Well, I guess good morning again, and it's great to see everyone in person. I think it's been 3 years since we've been in this room. And I want to give a special shout out to our friends at Culpeper Garden. It's lovely to see you all. Echoing Helen again, just thank you for your help with the Community Engagement Forum. It was a big success, and we're excited to see these continued partnerships and connections. And just a few updates that I have. We have seen an increase across the board in all of our the services connected to our community supports and coordination. One of the biggest ones that we continue to see is for adult protective services. We had a record number of reports and investigations for February, for the month of February, that we're continuing to see at a very high volume. We do have a vacancy now in adult protective services that is posted on the county website. But if you know of anyone who is passionate about older adults and interested in joining our team, we have that vacancy and are looking for the right person. I do want to give a shout out though, especially to our adult services and adult protective services teams. Even with the high volume and the short staffing, our adult services team of sort of social workers, as well as our nurses, achieved 100% compliance with Medicaid waiver screenings. These are screenings that they're assessed by a social worker and a nurse for someone who qualifies for Medicaid to receive in-home services. We are averaging, I think, about 32 per month. You can receive services in the home, or if you meet criteria for long-term care, it could be assisted living or nursing home. We have 30 days from the date of request to screening. And so the team has been doing just an amazing job in achieving that state compliance of 100%. I see Denise on the call, and I want to give Denise a shout out. Denise is our guardianship coordinator. And yes, I guess whichever of the 3 screens we have in here. But our guardianships through Denise's hard work and achievements, guardianships, the delinquency rate is down to 3.6%, which is truly phenomenal. And it just speaks to her hard work, her efforts, and really the need and the benefit of having this position. Denise often goes above and beyond providing case management, care coordination, and support to the guardians. But we're also recruiting. So if anyone is interested in serving as a guardian, under Maimuna's leadership, there's a really phenomenal online training. There's a lot of support, but this is such a meaningful and impactful way to volunteer your time. And then I did want to just also mention, we are seeing a really high increase in the experiences of older adults in homelessness or housing instability. Last week, in one day alone, we had back-to-back evictions of older adults. And then we had another call from the hospital of someone who was unhoused, and their family dropped them off just at the hospital. They had no access to really any other types of benefits or services. But any elevation of homelessness and the needs and the advocacy, particularly for our older adults, there is a need for really wraparound services, but it is a really heartbreaking issue. And so we appreciate having the opportunity to spotlight this at the June Commission meeting, but we're also striving to get more involved and be invited to meetings like the continuum of care to be able to elevate the issues that we're seeing with our older adults. And then I will turn it over to Maimuna, who I know has another meeting. So Maimuna, if you want to give updates, and then we'll pause for questions.
Thank you, Rachel. And thank you, Helen. Good morning, commissioners and guests and Culpeper Garden residents. It's so good to see that the virtual platform is expanding to our senior resident communities. I just wanted to report that from a DHS, Department of Human Services standpoint, we are still undergoing centering race, and we have recently completed our division, along with the other 4 divisions within the department, a SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and looking at them across employment, procurement and finance, community engagement, which this commission does such a wonderful job with. Also with one more that I am forgetting, service delivery. And so we have embarked on this to roll up to the strategic planning effort for the department under Anita Friedman's leadership. The idea is to evaluate where our strengths, where our opportunities, where our threats are, and then roll that up into a strategic plan for the future for the department. Also, as Rachel mentioned, just to piggyback, all of our programs are really seeing a spike in acuity levels, referrals. We're carrying pending referral list where people are waiting to be served because the demand is extremely high. And as you can imagine, the pandemic years just exacerbated things. And so our senior adult mental health program is also experiencing a higher volume of referrals, managing through their same day access, which is coming in and getting intake assessments. Sometimes those assessments take 3 hours to then schedule them for the psychiatrist, the nurse, and assign them if they meet the criteria. So they're seeing an all-time high, and they're a very small staff team of 4 full-time clinicians and 2 part-time clinicians, and then 1 clinician that is exclusively dedicated to developmental disabilities and providing clinical services, because that is a specialized population that requires a unique approach to clinical services. So they're seeing, they're really feeling it. And so I thank you for all the advocacy that you do. This is probably no greater time than now to continue your advocacy efforts. And then I also just want to mention, overall, I'm very pleased with our division through the pandemic years. I have reported that we've had really an uptick in our turnover and staffing, but I'm really pleased to say that we have 2 vacancies in the entire division. One Rachel mentioned, and then one with our developmental services. And that is, I would say that in today's market and workforce, that is extremely positive. And so we are very pleased. And I am going to be recruiting for interns again, because interns do help. One, we love to be able to offer opportunities for training, raising awareness, having the love of working with older adults, having that passion, and being inspired. But it also helps us to offset when we have special projects, and sometimes they go on the bottom of the to-do list for our staff, and interns gravitate to special projects and really do a remarkable job. And then also learning about our day-to-day operations and being actively engaged. So that's all I have. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Maimuna. I think it is really helpful for us to understand that some of the needs that are ongoing in the larger department. I think some of our needs overlap with disability services, so that's great too, that you can help us understand what those needs are as well. Does anybody have any questions for Maimuna before she rushes off to her next meeting?
She can talk about long-term care before she leaves.
Oh, Maimuna, do you want to cover the long-term care committee meeting before you leave? Thanks.
Sure. Sure, thank you. Very briefly, I think it was one of our high points for the last long-term care liaison committee, which was just last Thursday, where we had our very first roundtable exchange among the providers, the administrators, the executive directors of our nursing and assisted living communities. They were all invited. Unfortunately, none of our nursing home administrators were able to make it, but we were able to record the exchange. We did have almost 100% of our assisted living executive directors. It was a really rich dialogue, and we focused as a committee on the lessons learned out of COVID. How have those lessons carried over to daily practice? What are some of the best practices that exist across the communities that serve as a strength and an opportunity? And then how could we strengthen our collaboration across the committee, the Commission on Aging, the division with the communities? So we got a lot of great feedback. And one of the themes that even we're talking about now is mental health, and having training and support around mental health that has been at an all-time high, as you can imagine, among residents, fear and anxiety and depression, and just experiencing
think, Maimuna, I think we lost you.
Other people are voting, she's not.
Yeah, so I will finish, having been at the meeting, and I'll ask Audrey if she has anything she wants to add, or, Kathy. There is a heightened concern about mental health, or continues to be a heightened concern. And the beauty of this meeting really was that it got, administrators who normally, who work for private entities, as well as nonprofit entities together, have that conversation. So if that's all right, Maimuna dear, I'm gonna move on. I'll let you go to your next meeting. I hope that conveys.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Helen, you mentioned you were gonna get some increased funding for healthy, I think you said healthy
Health
aging.
promotion program.
Health promotion, so Title
Yes.
3D of the
Yes.
Older Americans Act.
Yep.
Have you thought about how you're gonna use those, just in light of the discussions about mental health and perhaps some of the evidence-based programs to address depression and anxiety might be
Yeah.
looked at? I'd be happy to help you kind of think about
Yeah,
that.
those are really great ideas, and thank you, Kathy. So now that we have at least a glimpse of the information, we're starting to develop our area plan. And so that is one of the things that we'll have to report on, is how we're gonna use those funds. And so, yes, over the next month or so, there will be a lot of conversations about that, so I'll be in touch.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. All right, we're going to move on. We were scheduled at 10 o'clock, and it's almost 11 to have a break. So I'm going to suggest that if you need a break, please take one. We're going to continue to move on in the interest of time. Is that all right with you? Okay, Audrey, you're up.
We haven't met yet. We're meeting tomorrow. So we haven't met since all of the work we did on the missing middle housing letter. So I don't have much to report. Our meeting tomorrow is open to everyone, and I would encourage anyone who has an interest in housing. It's from 3 to 4:30, and it's on Teams. We're going to review the current 5-year plan and start discussing what we want the next 5-year plan to look like. We're going to discuss potential topics and speakers for the next year. Cindy's going to give us an update on the Sunrise North and South, Sunrise North and South. We're hoping in the South to get some affordable units, affordable assisted living units. They have said no, from my understanding, for the North units. Rachel asked us, building on what she said a minute ago, to talk about evictions of older adults, which is just becoming tragic. And I just wanted to say that I participated in the county's housing study. They had a session, a roundtable on home ownership for older adults. And I want to try to get more involved in the housing study and see what they're doing, since a lot of what they're doing overlaps with us. And we're going to talk about universal design and see if she can move that forward. So thank you, Erica. I hope you can come tomorrow. So anyone who's interested, please come. Thank you.
And the information about the teams is on the calendar that you can access through the Commission on Aging page, in case you want to.
And anybody who got the invitation from Helen, it's on the calendar that she sent out.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. As always, a pretty full plate. Any questions of Audrey before we move on? Okay, legislative. Herschel.
Okay, I just noticed, by the way, in the questions I sent out, one of them had to do with transportation. And I said subsidies for people who have a car. I left out the word don't.
Minor detail.
I'm glad you caught that. That's important.
If traffic gets any worse, you may be right.
That'll be mental health
Okay,
services, right?
First of all, Linda, what is your last meeting as chair.
I don't know. When is my last meeting as chair? July?
Well, my question is who in September, who's going to be chair? Because NVAN,
Yeah, there'll be an election. I won't be chair anymore. Oh,
then I was going to suggest to William that he might want to start attending NVAN justice at least through September, because you're going to be the chair.
Yeah, I think I attended, one within the last quarters.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
in September, the Arlington chair, whoever that is, of the commission will be the chair of the meeting.
Okay.
The staff, I'm sure will aid in, what you need to know, but.
It's a pretty easy lift.
Yeah, thanks for the heads up.
Okay, the next meeting is tomorrow, and, it's what they call a brainstorming meeting where people just put out ideas for what might be in the, platform, the 3 legislative and 3 budget items for next year. And the following, month, we vote on it. And I would suggest anybody who's interested, who might be interested, should come to those 2 meetings, because, to give them an appreciation for how the platform is put together, because when it finally comes out in the grip card, it looks coherent. But it's hard to believe, that given the process that it is coherent, but it does end up being that. So, anyway, tomorrow people will just make suggestions for things that NVAN,
And that meeting is at what time? It's all virtual, right?
yeah, and the meetings, I'm sure will never be in person again, because, people from Western County, I'm sure much happier, being able to sit in their office or at home, rather than fighting the morning traffic. So,
Is it at 8:30? What time is
It's
it?
like
9:30.
9:30.
9:30.
It's usually a 2-hour meeting.
You can-
for brainstorming.
Contact, if you're not on the list, you contact Helen or myself.
It is also on the calendar of events.
Yeah.
The connection information is included on the calendar of events, so you can just go there and click on part of it. Yep.
Anyway, so that's tomorrow morning. I guess, I'm not sure I have anything else for now.
Well, I just want to add my thank you for organizing and making sure that Delegate Lopez was here today, and Alana. I think these are really important for us to hear from the delegates. And a lot of the work that Herschel does with both NVAN, and he's got a lot of partners in crime, but it's an incredible amount of work and very well done. So that by the time that little card with the list of NVAN priorities, there is a fully thought through background paper on each topic that is delegated from our whole organization. That whole NVAN organization participates in many ways. So thank you, Herschel, for today as well as NVAN coordination. Anybody have any questions for Herschel? Okay.
I guess I didn't say exactly what NVAN is for those.
Okay, go. You can say it.
And it's people who are interested in aging issues from Loudoun, Prince William, Fairfax counties, and Arlington and Alexandria. And that's, it's not a government or an official body, so it can meet on Zoom. It's just whoever shows up. And there's some people who've been showing up for, I think, 30 or 40 years.
They were very young when it started, right? All right, thank you. Okay, we've heard from Maimuna about long-term care residences. The next one is positive aging and inclusion, and Link is on travel, but Andrea, do you have any updates?
I just wanted to mention that as far as the walking school bus, we have a fabulous new website thanks to the Alliance and for the Community Foundation. And so I do encourage all to go to the website friendsofthealliance.org and take a look at the walking school bus. It's really quite great. Nothing more really to discuss other than to say that we are expanding to other areas of Arlington and talking with the Arlington Housing Corporation and as well as APA. So anyway, more on that in May.
Excellent, thank you. And friendsofthealliance.org, this walking school bus website, does that help people who are interested in starting a website? Is it that toolkit that you've now put online?
Exactly. And it's both the toolkit and it's, recruitment, for volunteers. And then, of course, telling parents that, hey, this is something here for your kids, go to school, let them go and feel self-reliance and use their own 2 feet to get to school.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, Andrea. Anybody have any input or questions for Andrea? Thank you so much. All right, moving on to public information and outreach. Cheryl.
There really isn't much, all heard it already. First of all, in terms of the May meeting, that's going to be in connection with the Virginia Hospital Center activity on May 22nd. And I also, and the other part is about the Senior Ambassador Program, which will be featured in July. So that's about all I have to say right now.
Terrific. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think both of those are things we'll look forward to. Any questions for Cheryl? Okay, transportation, Jim and William.
Okay, well, let me start with the Transportation Commission report from Joan. Tell them the bad news about taxi fare.
The Transportation Commission met on March 30th. I will just mention 2 items. And the first one is the action item that Jim just referenced, that this is the first time since 2016 that a request has been made for a fare increase. And the Transportation Commission voted unanimously to recommend the county board authorize advertisement of a public hearing on May 13th to consider an increase in taxi cab fares. So the increase would be from $3 to $3.50 for the drop charge. You're already charged that when they get there. An additional one for the 1/6 of a mile charge from 36 cents to 40 cents. And the taxi cab wait time charge from 36 cents to 40 cents for 56 seconds. I don't know why why it isn't 60 seconds. And this is under the Arlington code that is chapter 25, which is taxi cabs. So if this goes through and then the county board approves the increase, it would go into effect on July 1st. Then the other thing was an information item on the master transportation plan. And nothing has been officially done yet, but work is beginning to come up with a proposal to update the master transportation plan. And these reasons were given that supposedly the master transportation plan no longer fully reflects county priorities, transportation best practices, or new transportation options, and it reinforces single mode advocacy. What we have now was adopted in bits and pieces between 2005 and 2011. So if this does go to the county board eventually, it would be something that would be like an 18-month study. And if approved, nothing has happened yet, but then this would be the guide for the next 20 years in transportation. So I think the Commission on Aging is going to want to be represented when that study gets started.
Yes, that'll be a massive undertaking. If any of you have ever seen the MTP, it's like, I don't know, it's 50 pages, 60 pages, and it predates scooters, probably predates bicycles. But they've got a lot of work to do. Yeah. And we certainly need to be part of that. Some other activities, William, Galera, and Erica and I did an outreach with Mary Marshall. Let me just give you a couple of outcomes there. We had 20 of 50 residents represented. Only 3 of them felt that they had major transportation problems. And one of those was they felt that the medical shuttle, when it was, they were never sure when it was going to come. There were several others. William, you want to?
Yeah, so yeah, Medicaid, as you noted, and the other one was a compliment to Metro. They said, hey, Metro buses are great because they lower when you get on, and I just want to say that they do a great job. So that was a plus. And then the third one was, so Mary Marshall is, disabled people, so mostly mental issues. That third individual wanted to go to Haynes Point, and there's no established way to get there. So we said, perhaps the volunteer agencies like AMV or Shepherd's, I forget the name of the Shepherd Center.
Shepherd Center.
Yeah, perhaps they might be, a possible solution. And then just to piggyback off that, Arlington Mill, we're also doing the next outreach there, myself and Jim.
Great. When are you doing that? That's great.
We're setting a date because they gave us 2 days, but each of us had a conflict with one, so. And we're also coordinating with Colorado.
Great.
We had the April meeting last week. We talked about, we've got 9 possible actions. William and I are going to sit down and go through all of those and see which rise to the top. But just one of them that came up today is the audible signals at crosswalks. We've had at least 3 people who are vision challenged complain about the specificity of these audible indicators. Most of the time, what you get is a buzzer. You're not sure where it's coming from. If I were vision challenged, I would have great concern stepping off the curb. I think some of these crosswalks have their information has declined, and part of it probably is because they removed some of that stuff for the pandemic, the buttons, for example, which sometimes initiate the message. And the message should be, your way to walk is clear for X road. Saying that your way to walk is clear doesn't tell you whether you can walk to the left or walk straight ahead. That's a real concern. So we are going to be continuing to work that. And then Andrea and I briefed the PAC, the Pedestrian Advisory Committee, had a great time. We're very well welcomed. Andrea has really paved a great sidewalk into the PAC. She's very well appreciated there as she is here. So we we decided that we need to get together on some of our projects because there's some overlap. And we've also requested a participant from the PAC to serve on our committee as well. So, Andrew, do you have anything to add to that? You're on mute. Mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say they were very well received and that, you know, and appreciated, I believe. You know, PAC really was interested in knowing what we were doing.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Wonderful, thank you. And
So there is a comment from our friends at Culpeper Garden. They just said that their concerns about getting to the aquatic center and to 55+ centers as they're not included on SCAT routes. And this center is a 30-minute walk from the closest bus stop. So thank you for that. And Jim is writing it down furiously.
There's some discussion about people have been killed along Yorktown Boulevard, and they now have, I think it's extraordinarily elaborate what they've done. They've added 2 stop signs, they've narrowed things. And so I imagine some drivers will probably be complaining because they have to creep through the area. But it's going to be a lot safer for the school, for Nottingham, and for pedestrians walking along, crossing the street.
Yeah, and I guess I should indicate too, at the transportation quarterly, we had Christine Baker, who runs Vision Zero, and she talked about several of her toolbox to items to reduce the deaths and accidents. And one of them was reduction of speed, which of course draws a lot of criticism as well as plaudits. But she had some interesting statistic. One of them is that 52% of the accidents in Arlington occur over 6.8% of the roads. Langston Boulevard is in that category, as is Glebe Road. And so, you know, she's concentrating on those, which is a great idea. Arlington averages about 50+ accidents per year, and it's pretty consistent, anywhere from 1 to 6 deaths. So she's doing a great job.
great, well, thank you. And thanks for, that's a big swath you guys cover. Any questions for William or Jim or others? Okay. That concludes all of our committee updates and reports. Cynthia, do you have anything to report on Age Friendly?
Yeah, we're meeting on Friday. We have a basic draft of the 5-year report based on the annual reports from the committees, which I think is going to give us a pretty good structure. We are now looking over it to decide what data and information we need to add to it. But we're coming along well. We are assuming that we will, and in fact, I've told the ARP that we will turn in the plan by the end of June, which would be the end of our 5-year cycle. A report, I'm sorry, not the plan. And then in the next year, we would start the cycle again by updating and extending the plan over the next 5 years, but we can take a year to do that. So that would be sort of what the committees would work on in the next year to do their goals and objectives for the next cycle.
Great, and welcome home.
Temporarily.
They are busy people. Any questions of Cynthia? Okay. Let's see any. All right, Alliance 55+, Andrea.
Hi. The 55+ is going along smoothly, considering that there's still 2 people have 2 staff members on loan elsewhere in DPR, and that the Alliance had on March 30th a fair to go and sign up older adults as far as for the federal broadband assistance program. And I think it went quite well. And that's about it.
That's great. I'm glad that you all were doing that. Any questions of Andrea? Okay. Link is not here, so I don't believe we have any update on the Alexandria Commission on Aging. So we'll move on to Wendy, A and B.
Wendy had to go to a dentist appointment.
Wendy had to, I'm so sorry.
She sent me a note earlier.
Yeah, I think, Wendy, as usual, her plate is mighty full and she always is kind enough to make time, and partner with us on this, opportunity to reach out to candidates for the Arlington County Board. So, appreciate all that she does. Erica, do you have an update on the Commonwealth Council on Aging?
No, I don't have an update, because the council meets on Wednesday, so I will have an update for you next time.
Great. All right, dementia friendly. Do we have any update from Jessica Frederickson?
I don't think is Jessica on? No, okay, so we have an internal, dementia-friendly Arlington group that Caitlin Stopper and Golari have been helping to coach here. If anyone is interested, we meet once a month on Teams, but a few things that are really exciting. The governor did sign House Bill 2250 into law, requiring that law enforcement recruits have specific dementia training. So we're very excited about that. And then our internal team has a pretty exciting lineup of training staff at the shelter at Path Forward, training some partners with the Arlington Partnership for Affordable Housing, or APA, and then some community trainings at Aurora Hills Library. And we've been meeting with Martha Villanegra Santiago, a former commissioner, about how we can expand some of the training to individuals and caregivers who are Spanish speaking. So we're doing a lot of really exciting stuff. If anyone is interested, it's an internal committee, so we can meet virtually, but please let me know and we'll make sure you get the invite.
Will any of these be open to the public? Or do we have any public trainings?
There's not.
The one at the library was for Spanish.
Okay, yeah, so they're working on a schedule for public trainings.
Okay, yeah, I really, appreciate that and hope that we can get that information out. All right, finally, the steering committee on older persons. Cheryl, do you have anything to add?
I just was gonna say their next meeting is in May, on May 19th. And I wrote down, or I guess I got this from, Jim, who I guess has left already, that the topic is housing issues. And it's supposed to be an in-person and Lover run. And Anthony and Terry are listed. Helen, do you have any more information on that?
Yeah.
So I guess we'll stay tuned. I don't know exactly what housing issues are gonna be discussed.
Okay. All right, that sounds great. All right, that concludes the committee reports. Is there any old business? Is there any new business for the good of the commission? Any announcements that anyone wants to make? Okay, our next meeting will be right here on May 15th. So we will be meeting in person. And I do appreciate your time today. Thank you so very much and have a great day. And if you haven't picked up one of these, it's a really great little cheat sheet. There's some there. Thank you. Thank you so much for all you do. Appreciate it.
Sometimes.